Bertolt Brecht is among the most influential figures in anti-realistic theatre. He is a renowned playwright, director, and theorist, best known for his contributions to epic theatre. But how has epic theatre developed over time? This video will delve into how Brecht became involved with this form of theatre, what epic theatre is, and what it is now becoming. From 1919 to 1920, immediately following his time as a military councilman at a hospital, Bertolt Brecht was a staff member at Der Volkswille, a daily newspaper of the Independent Social Democratic Party, where he wrote reviews for performances at the City Theatre of Augsburg. During this time, Brecht was not yet calling for any changes in acting techniques or directing styles. Although much of his writing in this period contained strongly worded attacks towards the untenable and inartistic directing techniques used at the local theatre. One of the earliest indications of what his style of playwriting and directing would later become was apparent in his critiques of other plays. There are uncertainties. One still feels the lack of the fourth wall, but what grace in everything! And what natural beauty in the disposition of her figure. She does not yet succeed in the emotional expression of despair. For instance, he made clear his particular interest in mime and gesture, often focusing his praises on body expressiveness, bodily inspirations, and mime, while directing negative criticism towards plays that he found to be too dependent on dialogue. In all of the easily heated, prettily lighted, money-devouring, imposing-looking theatres, and in all of the stuff that is offered in them, there is no longer 5 cents worth of fun. Brecht, in fact, loved fun and jokes. His interests in theatre likely began with cabaret and vaudeville. Among many other comedians and cabaret performers, Brecht was a big fan of the work of Charlie Chaplin. He wrote that Chaplin would in many ways come closer to the epic than to the dramatic theatre's requirements. They met several times during Brecht's time in the United States, and have been said to have had a noticeable influence on one another's work. In 1924, Brecht had his debut as a solo director with an adaptation of Christopher Marlowe's Edward II. He credited this experience as being the seed that later developed into epic theatre. That same year, he moved to Berlin and began an apprenticeship with Max Reinhardt at what was at the time one of the most well-regarded theatres in the world. Among the many connections he made during this time, one of the most significant was that with Erwin Piscator. Piscator was one of the earliest multimedia directors and made works with clear political messages. He believed that the theatre could be a means of educating the audience. Combining the works of Piscator as well as other directors and drawing inspiration from cabaret and his newfound and varied experience as a dramaturge, Brecht began developing his own unique style of theatre. The dramatic theatre spectator says, "Yeah, I have felt like that too. Just like me. It's only natural. It will never change. I weep when they weep. I laugh when they laugh." The epic theatre spectator says, "I has never thought it. That's not the way. That's hardly believable. It's got to stop. I laugh when they weep. I weep when they laugh." Brecht didn't want his audiences to feel emotionally connected to the characters. His intention was to alienate them. "Art is not a mirror with which to reflect reality, but a hammer with which to shape it." This he achieved with the V effect. Essentially, he wanted to make the audiences aware of the fact that they were watching a play. He made use of voiceover narration and would make the lighting, rigging, and set pieces obvious. Brecht would have the same actor play multiple roles, and they would do their costume changes while still on stage, making it clear that the actors are actors.
Isn't that right, Brecht?
Brecht? I am just you putting on a shitty German accent.
And when he did use any theatrical tricks or illusions, he'd make it very clear how they were done. His works were highly political.
Guten Tag, Fraulein. May I please borrow some money for to buy some Seltzerwasser?
I am sorry. I don't have any more money. I gave it to the bourgeoisie.
His characters would also consistently break the fourth wall.
With his concept of justice, he would often reduce characters to simple gestures rather than embodying their roles. Nowadays, the term Brechtian can be a little overused, often found in reviews where it applies merely to the break of the fourth wall or a moment where the lights turn on the audience. Things that have been around for much longer than Brecht. Yet his influence on theatre is incredible, not just in his innovations of acting style and directing techniques, but also in his writings on symbolism, theory, and politics.
If we can improve the organization of our artistic production, if we succeed in keeping our conception of the theater from being petrified, in developing our technical ability and making it more supple, in short, succeed in learning, we have the possibility in view of the incomparable readiness of our proletarian public and the undeniably fresh impetus of our young theaters, of building up a truly proletarian art. That is the fucking shot.